I've been watching a lot of Batman the Animated Series recently. Not for any particular reason, it's just that whenever I find myself getting bored or want something on in the background while I'm doing something else, I'll put on this show. And honestly, it's been great revisiting this show. It holds up surprisingly well. The acting is still pitch perfect, the artwork is still very impressive, and the writing is still very mature and sophisticated, well beyond many of the things you'll see on current day television. One of the things I noticed during my rewatching session of Batman was just how scary some of the episodes were. Seriously, I'm a 32-year-old man, and a lot of these episodes kind of freaked me out. I don't know how I was able to handle it as a kid. It didn't freak me out in the way, say, Hereditary freaked me out, but it was definitely not something I was expecting for a show aimed at elementary school people. But in the spirit of Halloween, I thought it would be fun to go back and take a look at some of the scarier episodes of Batman the Animated Series and really celebrate a show that really did get away with just about anything. Except murder. No one really ever died on this show. Can't have it all, I guess. So this list isn't going to be in any particular order. I'm not ranking them by which one is more terrifying than the last. Really, I'm just going through and highlighting some of the moments where Batman the Animated Series and its creative team got real spooky.
It's spooky.
And I'm only focusing on the core series itself, not the movies that spawn out from it. Although, there are some pretty good scary moments in Mask of the Phantasm. It even has murder. But let's start at the beginning with On Leather Wings, the very first episode of Batman the Animated Series. Now, one would think for the first episode of a brand new Batman show that the creators would want to focus on one of Batman's more well-known antagonists, the Joker, the Penguin, the Riddler, someone like that, someone familiar to get the audience familiar with your new version of Batman. But the creators of this show decided, nah, we want to do a monster movie right out the gate. And they did. And it worked! This episode starts off as more of a mystery before it becomes a full-blown horror movie. But when it does, it almost feels like a modern version of the classic Universal monster films. ManBat is a terrifying creature, unlike anything shown in kids' cartoons of the time. Also, this is the only episode of the original series where Batman bleeds, so you know they were serious. ManBat would later return in Terror in the Sky, itself a loose adaptation of the story Man-Bat Over Vegas from Detective Comics 429. It's not as scary as On Leather Wings, but it does have some good monster movie moments in it. Definitely worth checking out. Speaking of people turning into monstrous human-animal hybrids, Batman the Animated Series once gave us a true blue goddamn werewolf episode with Moon of the Wolf, written by the late great Len Wein. This episode also happens to be an adaptation, this time of Batman issue 255, which Len Wein also wrote. This episode skimps on nothing. It's a werewolf story that doesn't give a damn that it's a kid's show. The visuals look like they came right out of something like American Werewolf in London. Along the same lines as the episode Tiger Tiger, where Catwoman turns into a werecat. It's not as scary as Moon of the Wolf was, but it gives off a lot of strong Island of Dr. Monroe vibes, and it's cool to see this show reference classic horror movies like that, so that's also worth checking out. Now, of course, when we talk about scary Batman episodes, we have to talk about the Scarecrow. This series in particular really tried to drive home the fact that the Scarecrow was really into his MO of causing fear in the minds of his victims. His first appearance was in the episode Nothing to Fear. In this, Batman gets hit with the Scarecrow's fear toxin for the first time and starts to see monstrous visions of his parents expressing their doubt, shame, and disappointment in him. Seeing this paragon of bravery become a scared child is just nuts. And for an early episode in the series, it creates some truly memorable scary images. Next is Fear of Victory. In this episode, Scarecrow is specifically targeting athletes and making them too scared to compete. There's one specific scene of Dick Grayson's roommate envisioning his opponents as gruesome creatures that's sure to freak at least some people out. And this time around, Robin is the one who gets poisoned and has to deal with being too afraid to do his job. The scene where he and Batman have to scale a building to stop two robbers is a masterclass in inducing vertigo. And lastly, let's talk about Dreams in Darkness, another loose adaptation, this time based on the story The Last Arkham from Shadow of the Bat 1 through 4, written by Alan Grant and drawn by the best Batman artist ever, Norm Brayfogle. This one sees Batman trapped in Arkham Asylum while he tries to wean himself off of Scarecrow's new fear toxin. He keeps seeing hallucinations that aren't really grotesque, but still shocking and unnerving. All the while, Scarecrow is trying to poison Gotham's water supply with his new fear toxin. Now, yes, this is basically Ra's al Ghul's plan from Batman Begins, but you'd be surprised how many times this show predicted future movies. Batman uses the same coin trick to stop Two-Face in the show, much like he does in Batman Forever. And don't forget, the episode Showdown is basically just Wild Wild West, the movie, like almost beat for beat. Now, as scary as the Scarecrow episodes may have been, to me, the scariest episodes of Batman the Animated Series were actually the ones that featured Clayface. Holy hell, are these episodes messed up. The two-part Feet of Clay story is just full of dark images. Part 1 features a scene where gangsters pour toxic makeup down Matt Hagen's throat, turning him into Clayface. This scene is horrifying. It would never fly today in a kid's cartoon. Hell, I'm surprised it flew back then. Part 2 has Hagen's death scene, and it kind of is the stuff of nightmares. Seeing his face twist and deform like that kind of reminded me of when people melt in movies. Like, compare this scene to the face melting scene in Raiders. It's almost the same. Almost. And then there's Mudslide, an episode that features a scene where Clayface tries to smother Batman to death inside of himself. It's enough to traumatize a grown man. Lastly, I want to talk about what I like to call the Hard Act trilogy. This trilogy consists of the episodes Hearts of Steel Parts 1 and 2, and his Silicon Soul. Now, the Heart of Steel episodes aren't all that scary. Part 2 is a little bit scarier than Part 1, but they're full of a lot of great tense, nerve-wracking moments that will leave you edgy as all hell. But you kind of need to see these episodes in order to understand his Silicon Soul, which takes things to a whole nother level. And let me tell you something. The sight of seeing Batman with electrified wires hanging out of his chest trying to figure out what's wrong with him, or seeing him with his face half missing replaced with a Terminator skull, still freaks me out. It is still something I have a hard time comprehending. So of course, naturally, 1 year for my birthday, Bob gets me a Hard Act Batman statue. Good guy, that brother. I can go on, of course, talking about scary moments in Batman the Animated Series. Perchance to Dream is a great episode where Batman is trapped in a deceptive nightmare that plays with reality in a lot of fun ways. There's, of course, the reveal of Two-Face, which is a scary-ass reveal. But did you notice how all of these episodes were from the original Batman the Animated Series? There weren't a whole lot of episodes from the new Batman adventures that I would label as horror-centric. Even the Scarecrow episodes weren't all that scary compared to the original Scarecrow episodes, although he did get himself a very scary redesign. But that said, there are 2 episodes of the new Batman adventures that are still pretty good monster movie style episodes that would be a good Halloween watch. The first, The Demon Within, has Batman and Robin team up with Jason Blood and therefore Etrigan the Demon to fight Clarion the Witch Boy. It's a simple episode, but it deals with things like black magic and witchcraft, something that Batman has never really dealt with in this series before. The series has so far stayed away from like the supernatural up until this point, and it's fun to see. And of course, who could forget Critters, where big-ass farm animals attack Gotham City. Sure, that sounds really dumb, but it's kind of fun in a 50s B-movie sort of way. Give it a watch with a less serious mindset. It really is amazing that a kid's show from the early 90s could be as varied and unique as Batman the Animated Series was. This show really did do it all. 1 week it could be a detective story, the next a big action adventure, the week after that a horror movie, all without ever losing sight of its core ideas or its target demographic. Even today in 2019, episodes that were supposed to come off as frightening do elicit a proper reaction. I'm amazed at not just what they got away with back then, but that the episodes that they intended to be scary are in fact still scary. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not going to have nightmares or anything from watching Batman the Animated Series, but I can recognize good horror when I see it, and this show definitely had a lot of great horror moments. It's just one other reason why Batman the Animated Series has stood the test of time. Hard Act Batman is gonna give me nightmares though. guy. What are some of your favorite scary episodes from Batman the Animated Series? Did I leave your favorite out, or do you think I'm just a big dumb baby for getting scared of a kid's cartoon from 20 years ago? Let me know down below or anywhere on the internet. I will have an Amazon link in the description to Batman the Animated Series on Blu-ray. If you don't already own it or you don't have DC Universe to watch in HD, this is definitely the best way to watch the show. I also have Amazon links to some of the comics I mentioned that these episodes were based on. And hell, I'll even put an Amazon link to this guy, because why should I be the only one who has to sleep with one eye open tonight? Of course, don't forget that we have new videos every Tuesday and Wednesday, with Wednesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern being Wolf Den Live. So subscribe to see all of that, like this video, and share it with a friend who needs a good scare for Halloween, but maybe not that good of a scare. I don't know, maybe they got kids or a weak stomach or something. I can't watch the new Halloween movie. Thank you all for watching. I will see you next time.